Tasia was a radiant beauty, the cherished only daughter of Ignat and Antonina. Tragically, they had lost a son before Tasia was born. He passed away in his infancy. This loss caused Antonina to retreat into herself, yielding completely to Ignat's decisions. Despite Ignat's authoritarian approach, the love and care he and Antonina showered on Tasia was undeniable. While Antonina was compliant, and Tasia, in her younger years, followed suit, she eventually grew into her own person, known throughout the village for her striking looks and sharp intellect. By the time she was 20, she was wed, sparking a significant family rift. She had been seeing Yegor for over a year. He was jokingly referred to as the village catch, a title fitting this dapper young man perfectly. Immaculately clean and always well-dressed, he worked alongside his father as an accountant. His musical talent was undeniable, strumming the guitar and singing at the local club, much to the delight and admiration of the local young women. Yegor's father was a man of stature, yet rumors about Yegor swirled unfavorably. His military service was notably absent, dodged with his father's assistance. His demeanor towards the locals could be described as haughty at best. The village girls flocked to him like bees to honey, yet he reveled in their attention, as if he were a rock star among adoring fans. However, once his eyes set on Tasia, his demeanor shifted to one of arrogance. After all, he had won the most beautiful girl in the village. She hailed from a modest background, but that was irrelevant to him. He had real bragging rights now. Tasia, for her part, fell deeply in love, her nights restless as she replayed moments of his hands on her shoulders, their gazes locked, and his passionate kisses seared onto her lips. And so he proposed to her hand in marriage, yet her father vehemently opposed. "Absolutely not," he declared, raising his voice. "I refuse to allow you to wed that performer. His spirit is devoid of substance. Your vision is clouded by love, and one day you will thank me for saving you from hardship." In tears, Tasia questioned, "What am I to do then? Shall I forever remain at your mercy?" "Why must you remain a maiden?" he retorted. "You should marry Fyodor Saitov. Stand behind him like a sturdy fortress. He is a true man, not like this indolent fellow sheltered by your father." "To whom?" Tasia exclaimed indignantly. "I will not wed someone I do not love. Mother, speak up. How can you give your daughter away without love and consent?" Her mother calmly replied, "My dear daughter, you can do it. They gave me away, and yet my father and I lived a lifetime in tranquility and happiness." Ignat gazed into the eyes of his beloved daughter, grown, exquisite, headstrong. And he couldn't bear to witness her living a life of unhappiness. "Taya, my dear, mark my words. You'll eventually appreciate this," he expressed with conviction. The following day, near the tranquil lake, Tasia encountered her beloved. Instantaneously, her heart yearned with an ache that she would have to bid him farewell. She longed to collapse onto his sturdy chest, yearning for his tight embrace, never wanting to let go. However, Igor merely glanced squint-eyed and asked, casually running his fingers through his lustrous hair, "So what's the deal with your father? Is he upset? Or did he give the go-ahead?" His smile was tinged with mischief. "Oh, Igorashka," Tasia exclaimed tearfully, "we cannot be together. I have not swayed him." She collapsed against his chest, rivers of tears streaming down her face. "And what's wrong with me as a suitor? I manage a solid household. My father holds a good position, and we share love. Or doesn't any of that matter?" Igor shoved her aside and kicked a duckling that was inching its way to the pond. The little bird flapped its wings frantically before toppling over. Tasia knelt down near it, but Igor seized her by the elbow, pulling her up forcefully. "Come on, let's take a stroll. I haven't got all day." He guided her to the woods, where the girl barely evaded his advances. His kisses were intoxicating, and his grip unyielding. Despite the ardor of the moment, she wouldn't let his roaming hands wander. Overwhelmed by his persistence, she pushed him back and dashed off. By the lakeside, I chanced upon Fyodor. Sprawled on the ground lay his fishing gear, while in his grasp nestled a wee duckling. He acknowledged Tasia with a nod and cast his gaze downward. With ringlets framing his countenance and an unassuming look on his face, he possessed stout shoulders, albeit lacking in height. How could I ever compare him to Yegor? Instantly, a pang of yearning pierced through my heart. I stumbled upon this little one by the water's edge, Fyodor disclosed, gingerly cradling the injured leg. I'll take it to my father. He's adept at tending to creatures. It's been his lifelong calling. Fyodor, who worked as a tractor operator, assisted his father on occasion. Their household thrived, not in destitution, but certainly not in opulence. While his two sisters had wed, he remained under the familial roof alongside his parents. Katie's cheeks flushed as she recalled the moment Yegor had kicked the duckling, then gently patted its wing before continuing on his way. Embarrassment crept over her, yet she couldn't bring herself to speak of it. Alongside her father, they had nursed the duckling back to health, mending its injured leg. They chose to let it stay and live with them. Before long, Tasia found herself betrothed to Fyodor. Her father had likely struck a bargain with Fyodor's father, leaving her without a say in the matter. Yegor had tried convincing her to elope with him, but where would they go? It would simply bring shame upon her family. She pictured her father's anger and her mother's heartbroken tears. What if things didn't pan out between her and Yegor, and they had no choice but to return? No, she couldn't do it. She refused. Yegor turned to leave, throwing an angry parting shot over his shoulder. You'll regret this, but by then it'll be too late. I will come back for you. Shortly, the wedding date was set. Tasia heartbroken, wet day and night, though she tried not to let her father see her tears. In the greenhouse, as she knelt by the flower beds, thoughts weighed heavily on her mind, and tears streamed down her face, nourishing the already fertile soil. At home, her mother would comfort her. Don't cry, dear. Father means well. On the big day, Taya stood before the mirror, gazing at her pure white dress. Her parents had tailored it with care. The youthful and radiant bride was absolutely stunning. The groom was no slouch either. His suit fit him well, starched shirt and tie in place. Yet despite his polished look, he wasn't exactly easy on the eyes. However, his gaze was filled with warmth and affection as he looked at Tasia, who quickly averted her eyes, unable to return his feelings. The wedding guests were all in high spirits, save for the bride and groom. The groom kept his composure, but Tasia's tears flowed when she saw Igor glued to Natalia Mokova, dancing with her, pouring her wine, and holding her close. Fyodor, the groom, was hesitant to touch his bride, but whenever the guests clamored kiss, he would gently embrace her and give her a soft kiss, his lips tasting sweet like honey. He abstained from drinking any alcohol that night. The night flew by in a haze. Fyodor held his young bride with a profound tenderness, whispered sweet nothings, and lovingly fulfilled his marital obligations. Tasia did not resist, yet in the dawn's early light she wept. Having surrendered herself to a man she did not love, her heart braced for the inevitable future. As the first rays of sunlight peeked through the curtains, Fyodor rose, dressed, and with a somber tone remarked, "Taya, you have not given me your heart or soul. I can sense it. I won't seek your love any longer, not until you offer it freely, but as your lawful husband, I will honor and cherish you." He left the bedroom, leaving Tasia alone with her tears. Eventually, she composed herself. Crying wouldn't change a thing. She needed to adjust to her new family life. With a composed expression, she joined her mother-in-law and father-in-law for breakfast. Taking a deep breath, She put on a smile and took her place at the table. She was warmly welcomed and held in high esteem. She contributed to the household chores as much as she was able, tended to the gardens and the birds. The little duckling matured and blossomed into a beautiful creature. She recalled how Jago had once lashed out at it in fury and thought to herself, a man like that could easily strike his own wife without batting an eye. And indeed, that's exactly what transpired. He wed Natalia shortly thereafter, yet theirs was a joyless marriage. Natalia found herself running back to her parental home in tears day after day. Tasia's affections for him had faded into oblivion long before, and no love for her husband ever took root. Her heart grew cold. Though she felt a twinge of sympathy for Fyodor, she remained distant, unresponsive to his sporadic tenderness, her arms never unfolding in a loving embrace. Both her mother and mother-in-law incessantly anticipated the arrival of grandchildren. What was she to do in such a predicament? And thus, time marched on drearily until Cataclysm descended. Old Matveyevna's place at the outskirts caught fire in the dead of night. The entire village was up in arms, and Fyodor was among the first to dash off. Tasia hurriedly dressed and followed suit, rushing to the scene. The cottage ablaze, individuals gathered with pails and shovels, striving to extinguish the flames. Matveyevna lamented, while the women provided solace. Gasping for air, Tasia exclaimed, "Where's Fyodor?" Unable to locate him amid the crowd. "He's inside yours," responded Grandma Klava, their neighbor. "He's your esteemed man. He managed to salvage a considerable portion of grandmother's possessions." Anxiously, Tasia inquired, "Well, and where is he now?" Her heart fluttering with trepidation for her husband. "He's inside the cottage, my dear. Matveyevna has a pup in there, a wee little thing." Fyodor pursued it, endeavoring to rescue the animal. And in an instant, the roof crumbled right before the very eyes of the honest onlookers. Despair overtook them as they clutched their heads and lamented the crumbling devastation. Tasia, overwhelmed, felt her vision blur and succumbed to unconsciousness. When she awakened, a tender touch brushed against her face, accompanied by a gentle whisper. "Tachka, I'm right here. Can you hear me?" Opening her eyes, she caught a glimpse of Fedya by her side. His gaze filled with worry yet so endearing. Embracing him tightly, she murmured softly, "My love, are you all right?" The roof, it collapsed. In response, he reassured her, "I'm safe. I managed to locate the kitten behind the stove and leaped out of the window with him." It was only then that the roof gave way, dear. And then she began to shower him with kisses, on his forehead, his cheeks, and his lips. In return, he held her tight, pulled her aside, and whispered softly, "My dear, why don't you sit here while I assist the gentleman? We'll head home together afterwards." It was in that moment that love blossomed, naturally and without coercion. Two youthful hearts were ignited and united. Oh, what a wonderful husband Fyodor was. He was not only a loving and devoted son-in-law, but also a respectable and caring son. His wife adored him, cherishing him as if he were her everything. She tended to him with great tenderness and affection. When they discovered that a new addition to the family was on the way, they couldn't contain their joy. Both the young parents and the grandparents were overjoyed. With boundless enthusiasm, they embarked on the journey of constructing a new home for their growing family. That's when Tasia approached her father, enveloping him in a warm embrace, placing her cheek against his, and whispered affectionately, "Thanks, Dad. You're the one who brought me joy and didn't forsake me for Igor. I'll never forget your paternal love and concern." "Sure thing, daughter," said the soon-to-be grandpa. "Happiness is a feeling you sense deep within. I sensed it and passed it on to you. Live in good health and respect your husband. We'll support you in any way we can. May God bless you with eternal happiness."